The day my little sister disappeared changed everything. Emily was only 7 years old. For 3 days, the entire town searched for her. Volunteers combed through forests with flashlights while police officers knocked on every door. My parents barely slept. My mother cried until she had no tears left. Everyone prayed that she would be found alive. Then they found her. She was lying at the bottom of a roadside ditch just outside our small town. Rain poured from the dark sky, washing the mud from her pale face. Her small eyes were still open, staring into the storm above. It was a sight I will never forget. The police called it a homicide. Detectives questioned everyone in town, searched for evidence, and followed every possible lead. Weeks turned into months, but no arrests were ever made. Eventually, Emily's case became another unsolved mystery, and life slowly moved on for everyone except my family. Emily was buried in the old cemetery behind our neighborhood. At her funeral, my father held me tightly while trying to hide his own tears. My mother was too heartbroken to speak. Everyone kept saying Emily was finally at peace. Deep down, I never believed them. About a week after the funeral, I woke sometime after midnight because I heard a strange scratching sound. It was slow, gentle, and rhythmic. Scratch. 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 I looked toward my bedroom window, and my heart nearly stopped. Emily was standing outside. She looked exactly like the day they had found her. Her blonde hair hung over her face, soaked by the rain. Her pale skin looked almost gray beneath the moonlight. Mud covered her dress, and her tiny fingers slowly scraped across the glass. Then she smiled. It wasn't the smile I remembered. It stretched far too wide, and her empty eyes never blinked. She simply stood there in silence, scratching at my window as though she wanted me to let her inside. Every night she returned. Always at the same time. Always standing outside my bedroom. Always scratching. Never speaking. At first, I hid under my blanket and pretended she wasn't there. But after several nights, I couldn't stand listening to the scratching anymore. My fear slowly gave way to curiosity. One rainy night, I gathered my courage and unlocked the window. The moment it opened, freezing air rushed into my room. Emily slowly climbed inside. She smelled like wet earth and freshly dug soil. Her skin was colder than ice. She never spoke a single word. Instead, she quietly walked into the darkest corner of my room and sat there watching me until sunrise. Every morning she disappeared before anyone else woke up, leaving only muddy footprints across my bedroom floor. Weeks passed before anything changed. One night Emily stood up, walked toward the family photograph hanging on my wall, and slowly raised one finger. She pointed directly at my Uncle Richard. Then she looked back at me and pointed again. She repeated the same movement over and over without saying a word. At first, I didn't understand. But after that night, I started paying closer attention to my uncle. Whenever someone mentioned Emily, he became nervous. He avoided looking at her photographs. He stopped visiting our house after dark. Every time I saw him, he seemed frightened for reasons I couldn't explain. Slowly, a terrible thought entered my mind. Emily wasn't haunting me. She was trying to tell me who had murdered her. I wanted to tell my parents, but who would ever believe a 12-year-old boy who claimed that his dead sister had revealed the killer? A few weeks later, Uncle Richard asked if I wanted to go hiking along the coastal cliffs outside town. It had always been one of his favorite places, and I agreed without saying much. Rain had made the narrow trail slippery, and powerful waves crashed against the rocks hundreds of feet below. When we reached the edge of the overlook, Uncle Richard stood quietly staring at the ocean. For several long seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I saw Emily. She was standing a few feet behind him. She wasn't smiling. She simply stared at me with those hollow eyes. Waiting. In that moment, I believed I understood what she wanted. Before I could change my mind, I ran forward and shoved my uncle with all the strength I had. He stumbled toward the edge. His arms flailed wildly as he struggled to regain his balance, but the wet ground gave way beneath him. His terrified scream echoed across the cliffs before he disappeared over the side. When I looked down, his body lay motionless among the jagged rocks below. The police ruled it a tragic accident. No one questioned the frightened little boy who had witnessed his uncle's fall. Everyone believed he had simply slipped on the wet cliff. That night, I left my bedroom window open. I expected Emily to return. Instead, I woke to the sound of screaming. She was kneeling beside my bed, shaking violently. She clawed at her own face as though something invisible was tearing her apart. Pieces of skin seemed to peel away while dark stains covered her tiny hands. She cried harder than I had ever heard anyone cry. Then, for the first time since her death, she spoke. "What have you done? Again. What have you done? Again. What have you done?" She kept screaming those words over and over until I covered my ears. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Eventually, everything went black. When I woke the next morning, Emily was gone. Days passed. Then came my uncle's funeral. As I stood beside the open grave, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The cemetery had run out of burial plots. The workers had reopened Emily's grave and buried Uncle Richard in the very same place. In that instant, I finally understood the truth. Emily had never wanted revenge. She had been trying to warn me. She wanted to stay as far away from the man who murdered her as possible. And because of what I had done, she was forced to spend eternity buried beside her killer. I never saw my little sister again. But even now, years later, whenever rain falls against my bedroom window late at night, I still hear the faint sound of scratching outside. Only now, I never open the window.